Hello, good morning, America, and good evening, Slovenia. My name is Ana Maria, and I would like to welcome you all to the 9th module of the Entrepreneurship in Your Reality project. Firstly, I would like to express my gratitude to all our guest speakers joining us here today, the moderator, and of course to all of you who are eager to hear about active citizenship and youth engagement. So before we start this webinar, just quickly and short introduction, what Entrepreneurship in New Reality project is actually all about. For all of you who have joined us here for the first time and have not been with us on the previous webinars. So the ENR project is a series of 10 webinars covering 10 actual topics in this time of new reality. We have brought together more than 30 guests coming both from the United States and from Slovenia to share their professional know-how, ideas, and perspectives so that we can all connect on both sides of the oceans. The ENR project was created by Gale College Faculty of Entrepreneurship. And of course, we need to express our gratitude to all our partners and supporters who are making this project a reality. And of course, I would like to express my special gratitude to US Embassy here in Ljubljana for support on this project. And Gale College Faculty of Entrepreneurship is operating as a modern business center, and we have been educating entrepreneurs and empowering young individuals for more than 30 years right now. So before I give this floor to our moderator for today, I hope that in this webinar, you will gain new knowledge, new ideas, so that you can grow not only as entrepreneur yourself, but also as individuals and as active citizens. So it is my privilege to introduce today's moderator, Alja Gajšek, who is joining us from CEED Slovenia, an active ecosystem for supporting local entrepreneurs. Alja is also an alumna of World Chicago Professional Fellowship Program and an active citizen herself. Alja, be my guest.
Thanks, Ana Maria. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone and moderate this conversation. We have quite an interesting topic today, which the title is Entrepreneur versus Society, and how does this equal win-win? So we're going to explore social entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about who is changing the world. How can young people take problems they see in our societies and create change? But first, I would start with a short introduction of the panelists. Here with us today is Peggy Parfenoff. Peggy has been leading World Chicago as a president for almost 20 years. World Chicago is a community-based organization that actually hosts exchange visitors within the different exchange programs that are supported by US Department of State. But what does actually mean? You know, young leaders from all around the world can spend a few weeks in Chicago and other US cities to explore either civic engagement, social, tech entrepreneurship, climate change, all this, you know, to get the new know-how, to build networks, you know, and to actually grow this change-making mindset that we're going to talk about today. And I'm talking this from my experience because I was really lucky to be part of one of these programs. So Peggy, thank you and welcome to this panel. The second one I would like to introduce is Gretchen Zucker. Gretchen has been leading and being part of you've been part of different leadership positions, right, within Ashoka for the last 20 years, leading different initiatives. Ashoka has really made the mark on a global level because they're spreading the culture of change making, which is such an important thing. But today she's involved in impact investing. She's part of the organization called Get America Working, and she's also still a strategic advisor to Ashoka. The third one that I'm going to ask to join us is Uroš Skrinar. Uroš is a director of Movit. Hi, Uroš. Movit is a Slovenian national agency for Erasmus+, which is an EU program that supports youth in action, but also another program called European Solidarity Corps. Uroš has been really recognized in Slovenia as a renowned leader in youth sector, being a contributor to the national youth law, designing different national youth programs, being on the helm of Network Mama as an umbrella of all youth centers. So Uroš, we're really glad that you joined us today. So you're gonna get let's say a European perspective on youth engagement and entrepreneurship. Today, the last but not least, Matic Žmuc. He's a director of Ypsilon Institute, and Matic, I don't see you, but okay. It's an organization where young people come, they network, they gain know-how through workshops, through mentoring, and it's a really cool platform in Slovenia that I believe that every young person, that's after college or even before that, joins, because you can really create a meaningful career or start your own business. But Matic is also a marketer by heart, which is a really important thing, because he's gonna get us an insight on what's happening out there with youth. But before we start with the conversation, I would like to invite the audience. Please be open. We would like to encourage you. Ask us questions. If you're brave, we can also put the camera on. If you like to put it in a chat or in Q&A, that's also okay. And we're gonna, as I mentioned before, we had a conversation with panelists, we have some kind of flow and some topics that we want to discuss, but if you take us to another direction, we would be happy to. So if that's okay with everyone, I would like to start with the discussion, and I would first ask Peggy. I don't know if everything's changing. Hi, Peggy. Since you've been working with young people from all around the world, and I would really love to know, who are the ones who are making a change today in our society, and what's your perspective on that?
Absolutely. Happy to do it. Thank you for the introduction, Alja, and thank you to Gay College and the U.S. Embassy for supporting this program. It's great to be a part of it from Chicago, where we just had snow yesterday. Bummer, but it'll go away. So as Alja mentioned, World Chicago hosts exchanges sponsored by the U.S. Department of State. And one of our biggest exchanges has been professional fellows, bringing entrepreneurs from the Balkan region to Chicago for a fellowship. And we're now going to be working on the YTILI, which is Young Transatlantic Innovation Leaders Initiative, bringing entrepreneurs from all 45 European countries to the US for a 1-month fellowship. And we're bringing entrepreneurs, but we're looking at leaders, and we're finding leaders that go back and impact their community. And we've found after doing this program for 6 years that this program makes such an impact, because they're not only better entrepreneurs, they learn new ideas, they share ideas that they're bringing from Europe over to the US, but they're building a network. They have this strong network that they're able to tap into and use for a long time. And they really begin to have a different mindset, because they've been taken out of their environment, put into a new environment, and they bring it back. And they don't use everything, they don't need to use everything, but they realize they have the ability and capacity to be change makers. And they go back and do that. So that's one of our programs that we really think is great to see this impact, and the young people who can improve their communities, make their world a better place.
Definitely. Thanks, Peggy. Matic, you as a young leader, let's see, what the young people think about, what are your aspirations today, if you're looking from your own perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Alja, and thank you, Gay College. I think I was quite, well, not lucky, but when I was starting my career, I got surrounded by the right people, got the right network, was also proactive during my studies, and that helped me that I got my first job very soon with not many problems that many young people are facing today. So in Ypsilon and me personally, I try to help younger people to boost their career, to start doing what they're doing best, what they're passionate about, what they want to create. And that's what we at Ypsilon and me personally are really aspired to do so.
What kind of change? What are you aspired to do? I really want to see, how do you think, now as a young leader, what are your goals?
Sorry about?
No, what are your goals? What do you want to, where do you want to succeed? What kind of change do you want to make? within Ypsilon?
Right now, I'm focused totally on helping young people, even though it might sound funny because myself, I consider myself young, and helping younger at my age could seem a bit strange, but I really believe in connecting with the right people can help you at the time you need this help the most. So at the beginning of career.
Cool. Thanks, Matic, for now. So we checked about, what are the perspectives, from someone who's working with young people and from a young leader, and now I'd really love to go to explore more about who are the change makers, and especially who is a social entrepreneur. And Gretchen here, I know Ashoka was actually the one who termed the coin social entrepreneur. So can you take us on that journey and how did that happen?
I'll be glad to. And the nearest by Ashoka, well, we have Ashoka offices in Austria, Romania, and Hungary, so kind of in the neighborhood. And I think there are about 20 Ashoka offices across Europe, and amazing social entrepreneurs in Europe as well as around the world. Ashoka came up with this idea of a social entrepreneur, also came up with this idea of people being change makers as well. Of course, there have been social entrepreneurs and change makers throughout history, but the idea of Ashoka was really to build this field of social entrepreneurship. And then the vision of Ashoka got even bigger, where we said, okay, we've got these amazing social entrepreneurs, and these are folks who are generally changing systems. So if you think of someone like Steve Jobs, who basically pioneered the personal computer industry, that's an example of an entrepreneur, or the equivalent would be a social entrepreneur. Someone like Florence Nightingale, who came up with the nursing profession. So now you have nurses all over the world, and largely you can credit Florence Nightingale for that. So those are examples from history of entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs. Ashoka's vision now is that all 7.5 billion of us could all be change makers. So how do we create a culture where everyone takes initiative and drives positive change? So not necessarily changing a whole system or building a whole industry. That's going to be a rare group of people, but solving problems in their community and causing positive change. And that can happen in your workplace, it can happen in your school, it can happen in your neighborhood, it could happen all over the world. So that's Ashoka's work and vision. And I'll just quickly say it's so nice to be back in Slovenia, having been invited by the US Embassy a few years ago. The best gelato and cappuccinos I've ever had, I had in Ljubljana. And I met amazing change makers there. So looking forward to hearing some of their stories. And the wine is really good too. So all those things I miss about Ljubljana.
True. They all sound Italian, but yeah, there's a lot of Italian culture within Slovenia. Gretchen, can I ask you still, I'm in nursing profession, I know, but do we have any immediate, I don't know, any change makers, that you are passionate about, or that inspire you maybe from the last years? I mean,
yeah. So I'll give you a couple of recent examples. There's a social entrepreneur based out of Africa who came up with this idea of, her organization is called Writers for Change. And this entrepreneur came up with the idea that healthcare for people living in rural areas in Africa can be very hard to get access to because there are no doctors, there's no clinic nearby. And so if you have an emergency, you have to travel a very long distance. So she started an organization that has motorcycle fleets, so fleets of motorcycles, and they bring the healthcare to these rural areas all across the continent, thereby bringing medical services, drugs, and other support to millions and millions of patients who otherwise would not be able to access that kind of healthcare. And similar, another Ashoka fellow or Ashoka social entrepreneur based out of the US, just sticking with the healthcare theme for a moment. He had this idea that you've probably heard of the concept of telemedicine, where you can see a patient over Zoom like we're doing and diagnose the patient and provide care. His idea is that you can, through Zoom, and this was an idea that he had probably about 15, 20 years ago. So it's been going for a while now. You could have primary care physicians in rural areas team up with specialists in kind of big teaching hospitals to deliver care directly to patients all over the world. So if you have let's say you have hepatitis or a kidney disease or some sort of disease, ordinarily you'd have to go see a specialist to treat you for that disease. And so you would have to travel all the, hundreds of miles or kilometers to the big, city where you could get that care. What they've done is through what they call echoes, they take that specialist and they team up that specialist with a nurse practitioner or with a kind of a frontline healthcare provider, and they deliver all the care through that local doctor or nurse practitioner. And the care is actually better than if they had traveled to go to that teaching hospital to have that specialist treat them directly. Because that frontline healthcare provider knows the patient and sees the patient regularly and is able to follow up and work with that patient in a way that a specialist never would. So once you do that, let's say that he started in New Mexico, sort of in the Southwest, which is generally there are many poor communities, rural communities that don't have access to healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And in Santa Fe at the university, the teaching hospital, that's where the specialists were. So once you start it for the state of New Mexico, you can imagine how far you can go. And in fact, he's set up these echo systems all over the world. So you have specialists treating patients everywhere, across Africa, across Asia, and elsewhere. So you can see the power of those ideas.
Yeah, because it's great to have examples, so we can really, sometimes I know we're talking about social ventures, impact, and so using so many terms, and we're not really sure, where the impact is and what these kind of terms actually mean at the end. So thanks, Gretchen, for explaining that. And Uroš, I know we've been talking, and Gretchen is supporting the change makers around the world, right? And I know, and you have the whole European perspective, what's happening in Europe, because we have this entrepreneurship competence network that I believe, it's somehow connected to this supporting youth in action, right? In action, possibly in change, making a change. Can we talk more about that? And also the competence, entrepreneurship as a competence.
Mm-hmm.
Competence. Sorry.
And confidence.
Yeah, I know. And confidence, which is a really important skill, right?
Yes.
Among the competence network.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that, so we create the whole map of everything?
Yes, I'll try to be brief. When I was listening to Gretchen, now I would say that something similar is supported by European Union programs for young people. Yeah, not so much talking about change making, but on the end, it's the result or the impact should be quite similar. And we are talking about active European citizenship. Yeah, especially focusing on participation of young people, not because this is something that someone made it up, but because if we want to make changes to happen, we need to support young people in making them. Yeah. And this is basically then supported through the fantastic legislation and so on, so that I don't bore you. But we have European Youth Strategy on 3 crucial points: engage, connect, and empower. Yeah, and I think these 3 points are crucial, and we try to support this European Youth Strategy through European instruments. For example, European programs, Erasmus+, European Solidarity Corps programs that were mentioned. Those programs are supporting young people, organizations to prepare projects to have an impact on local communities, on national communities, something similar that was already mentioned by colleagues here. Yeah. Firstly, to support young people in getting the competencies. When you are doing something, when you are learning from doing, when you are doing the mistakes, you get the competencies. Also entrepreneurial competencies. We will not be all the entrepreneurships, but we will have this competence how to bring it to our daily life. Yeah. Then organizations that are doing these projects are impacting the local communities, then on the long term are impacting systems that also Gretchen and Peggy mentioned. Yeah. And this is something that we need if we want to further develop our local communities and supporting young people in being change makers. Yeah? And programs are here to basically support everyone, especially those who are maybe not so privileged, or who are young people who are coming from different backgrounds, from different geographical scopes or different entities. So to actually give everyone a chance to build on these competencies. And to be concrete, that you mentioned, yeah, we had fantastic projects that were also developed into the businesses. Yes, not a lot of them, but some did. For what I'm the most proud in the recent months, affected by the pandemic, of course, young people who are volunteers from different countries of the European Union and are volunteering in Slovenia, doing solidarity projects in local communities. They stayed in the time of pandemic. They were, for example, sewing the masks that we were not having them at the beginning. They went and shopped for elderly people that they were not going to the shops and so on. And this maybe doesn't sound wow, but for some small change in local community and building on solidarity, this is something that then brings a lot to all of us. Yeah. And young people seeing that they are making a difference, that they can get the support to achieve different ideas, is something that they also take it further and maybe build their own businesses. So this is also behind why we are supporting different projects. So basically building on the competencies and giving the opportunities to make an impact.
Wonderful. Wonderful examples. We're going to tap into the competence part in a minute. Now I would like to just ask the audience, because we prepared a poll. We really want to see, how does the audience react? And Ana Maria, can we put out the poll? So the question is, do you see yourself as an active change maker in your community, whether it's a company, school, organization, and local environment? And then we're gonna see the results a little bit later and we can comment on that. But now I would really like to go more into this competence part, because everybody, all four of you were talking about it. What are these competences, entrepreneurial skills, change-making skills, mindset, what do you see is the most important? Because, and not mainly just for, I don't know, for really young people like primary school, because I know where we should start, but also, you can come also to an environment that you kind of need it even when you're 20 years old, and can we talk more about that? Who wants to go first? I feel this is a really important topic to discuss.
No,
Uroš?
I can start.
Yes, please, Gretchen.
Sure. Well, it's never too late. So if you haven't yet had an experience of being a change maker, don't worry, you still can. But generally, if your teenage years are probably the most prime years. Those are the years when you start to have an opinion about everything. And you haven't yet decided that you're not capable of doing things. So you haven't already put limitations on what you can do. So that's really the prime age. So if you have children who are teenagers, this is really the age to encourage change making. And the best way to become a change maker is just by practicing, taking initiative, forming a team, designing a solution to a problem, and causing change. And through that, you learn these skills that we were talking about. So being entrepreneurial, having an entrepreneurial mindset, leading a team, engaging with others to problem solve, and empathy is a critical skill there too. So typically when we work with kids to design and launch ventures, we ask, what really bothers you? What really pisses you off? And there's always something that makes people very unhappy, right? And that they want to change. And then we talk about, well, what are you really passionate about? What do you love doing? And then we help them pair those two things together. And then that's kind of where the idea of the venture comes from. And it really can be anyone. You can be even younger, from any background. There are so many problems out there to solve. And we need way more people to outnumber these problems.
Just to jump on what
Yes,
Gretchen
please
said,
do.
we, World Chicago did an exchange. We usually do exchanges with young people. And of course, this last summer had to do it virtually. So we had 40 young people, half in Chicago and half in Egypt, Morocco, and Tunisia. And they got together and worked on teams and doing a social enterprise, addressing an issue, not solving. It takes a little more to solve an issue, but addressing an issue that they saw. And I think what was beneficial was there's a framework out there. You don't have to figure out how to address this issue on your own. Use this framework of entrepreneurship. You can plug it in. What are the issues? Who can you resolve? Who can you address? Who are the clients, so to speak? And use this framework. And I think for the kids to see, the young people to see that there's the same issues in Chicago as in Egypt. You might have too much attention paid to women walking down the street. You have climate change issues that people are concerned about in both Chicago and Morocco. And having them work together saw that they came up with a solution, or came up with a way to address some of these issues that works in both places. Doesn't make them feel so alone. And it was just a simple act of educating them, giving them the framework, and having them work together really helped them see that they could, in fact, make change and make a difference. So I think
some kind of international, right? Because when you're connecting, different sides of, different countries, on the other sides of the oceans, you're kind of, your impact, you feel like your impact is greater, right?
It's greater, and you understand others. You stop to doing the others, us versus them, and it becomes, we all are facing this. They might live in Egypt, but it doesn't become the Middle East versus the West. It becomes this person who I talk to in their home, and they have much the same issues that I have. I can either take the path of the grandparents and say, oh, nothing's going to change, or you take an action and you make a step and try to make change. So it was great to see their engagement.
Yeah, Uroš, please.
I'll add to what Peggy and Gretchen said about competencies. I think that very basic things when you start, you learn about project management. We know what it is now, but I didn't know it when I started. First plan, financial plan that you need to do. Of course, you make mistakes. I know this is basic, but from very basic things, then you can do, I don't know, budget plans for millions and so on. Yeah. Or you start to negotiate for the small things, also in the small local communities, that you need to agree on something, and then you have the skills when you are negotiating for the deals or whatever. Communication. We don't get communication like when we are born. I mean, you need to practice, you need to get this social experience, you need to learn when you are talking also in different environments. And what was mentioned now, of course, if this is only Slovenia, but then you go internationally, that's also totally different point of view, how you are going to deal with that. Yeah. And all these points are then adding to your basically experience. And this is, I think, also crucial now when we are observing what is important when people are hiring. For example, when you are an entrepreneur and you want to have another colleague, employed, staff, or however we want to call it, I don't look anymore in the formal education levels. Sorry, that's bygones. Yeah, it's nice that they have diplomas and everything, but I want to see what they are capable of. And it's not also important that they are capable at the moment. It's also good that they are willing to learn. And that is something that I think it's important also when you are an entrepreneur. You never can sleep. Or whoever you are, if you want to make a change, you cannot just stay and do the same thing for 5-10 years, because sooner or later you will fall asleep and some other will come and you will be just sleeping there. Yeah, if I say it very poetically. Yeah, so I think this all brings to building your resume in a way that helps you then lead the company or lead the change or lead also the ministry. Yes, maybe there we need quite a lot of entrepreneurs, yeah, at least in Slovenia, if I'm honest. So in this way, I think we can support changes on all different levels and also on the local, national, European, international. Yeah.
I agree. Matic, are young people change makers? How do you see that? You know, you've been surrounded as well, you know, with.
Generally speaking, I think that young people are change makers, and maybe as Gretchen said, that teenagers are the most open-minded, not yet worried about the future. But it's not just the age, but the whole generation. That young people tend to be less like worried about the future, but not irresponsible. Just I don't know, living in the moment and doing what they're passionate about. And maybe with the social media and all digital era, all the information about entrepreneurship are more available to the public. So everyone is saying that everyone is doing some business, everyone has their own online shop, doing some change, working on project. This all becomes like new reality. So you got a feeling that everybody's doing it. So I have to jump on that train and also start making something. Also, young people are aware that just like diploma is not enough, and that they need extracurricular activities, projects, extra skills, this and that certificate. It's just the question, where do they get those formal experience, and where do they gain knowledge outside of university?
That's so interesting. All four of you were talking about really the active percentage of, right, young people, you know. What about the ones who are not that engaged, you know? Okay, what are the actions, you know, what we can do, you know? Because, you know, yeah, actually all four of you were talking about the ones who are engaging, you know, who are interested in something new, to create something new, you know? Maybe from a Slovenian point of view, and maybe you can, Gretchen and Peggy, can you add also your perspective on that? Uroš, how do you see what's happening with you today?
I was not talking only about those who are already taking changes and so on. I was also talking about young people who are maybe with less opportunities, and that we can support them. And these programs that I was mentioning are definitely there. Yeah, research is about young people are showing that it's still the model of resources, interest, and mobilization. Yeah.
Okay.
And in general, it's always that they say, we have no resources. Yeah, I cannot do it. Yeah. Then there is no interest. I cannot do it. I don't want to do it. I'm afraid. I don't want to participate. Yeah. And then is the third thing, that nobody is inviting me to do it, to participate. Now I'm talking about not those who are already active, because we always have a percentage of young people or old people, yeah, that will always be active. Yeah. And how to support those who are not active yet, yeah, who are not maybe aware what also Matic was saying, yes, that not only formal education is enough. Yeah. So programs and supporting and peer learning and presenting what is possible by the ones who are active is also way how to go and support also other, for example, in Slovenia. Yeah. I can say that we are quite successful in a way of, if I'm talking now about indicators and so on, you know how this goes. But nevertheless, we cannot sleep. Yeah, we need to follow also higher measures and how to support young people even more, also in the areas of Slovenia who are deprivileged. Yeah. So programs and initiatives that we are supporting are exactly there. Yeah. So that a group of 4 young people, non-organized, can do something in wherever they want. Yeah. And giving them especially also the space to feel safe, that even if they do mistakes, so what? Yeah, we will learn on those mistakes. Nobody will punish you. Yeah, although our culture is still not there. This is probably quite a big difference, European or Slovenian American way of doing things, yeah, according to my knowledge.
Yeah, and thanks, Uroš, for clarifying that.
It's of course it's challenging to speak about what young people are like now because it's a lot of people and they're all different. But I would say they are highly, there's more of an awareness of getting engaged and being engaged. And of course, you all watch the news and know we had a challenging year addressing some systemic racism in the United States. And we saw so many young people become active, realizing that if they did come from a position of privilege, it was their responsibility to help make change in that. So that was encouraging. But I think we also, with the global world we're in, with young people with all of us getting news on a regular basis, they're having discussions about the protests in Hong Kong or what's happening to the Rohingya in real time because it's happening and it's the access and the information is there. So the discussions are the start of their engagement. So it's interesting to see this happening.
Gretchen, would you add a point?
I would suggest thinking about young people being activated and being change makers, and versus those who are not yet change makers, as another kind of inequality. So we usually talk about the haves and the have-nots. Well, this is another instance. So if you think about that change maker competency set as sort of the equivalent of being able to learn to know how to read or literacy, then you can see sort of then what does it mean for kids who don't know how to read or adults who don't know how to read? I mean, that's a real challenge navigating society. It's similar. I mean, it's becoming the case that being a change maker is in many ways as deep privileged as not being able to read. And so then what do we do to make sure that everybody has literacy and everybody is a change maker? I think that is really the way to think about it. And I would look at it from 3 standpoints. One, we talk about all these problems in the world and we need people to take initiative to solve these problems. So climate change is not going to be a couple social entrepreneurs. It's not going to be a couple governments. It's really going to have to be the initiative of millions and millions and millions of people taking initiative on this problem. So we need way more change makers out there than we yet have, although it's starting to grow. So many more. We have to multiply that rapidly. So we need more change makers to outnumber these problems that we have. And two, when I was talking about literacy, that's serious because the kinds of jobs that are being created that will become available when our teenagers are adults are the kinds of jobs that are going to require change maker skills because of automation, because of artificial intelligence, because of other forces. And so as we're thinking about preparing people for future jobs, those change maker skills are really an important competency for those jobs that will be created. And third, that change maker mindset or having a purpose and feeling like you have power to do something is so critical for our emotional and mental health as well. And one thing that really struck me about Slovenia while I was there was the proportion of the population who are lonely and who feel like they don't have as much to live for as you would hope that people would have. And purpose and agency are 2 critical pieces of what you need in order to navigate life in a healthy way. So we owe that to our fellow Slovenians and Americans and all over the world to help people develop those important competencies.
Yeah, amazing. And we need to reach the critical masses, right, for this kind of big questions, which is still on our shoulders. I would like to now go to the couple of questions that we got from the audience. So is there, you mentioned there's no Ashoka program in Slovenia, Gretchen, but how can we join? I mean, Slovenians, can we join in Austria? Can we join in wherever? Yeah. Is it like a remote? Is it an online program?
Yeah, so there's a platform for anyone who wants resources on taking initiative and being change makers. And so just ashoka.org, there's a wealth of resources. There's another kind of sister website called changemakers.net. I'll type both of those in the chat so people. And so there are Ashoka fellows all over the world, even where we don't have offices. That's a pretty rare group of people, as I was mentioning. So those are the social entrepreneurs who are pioneering new fields and changing systems. It's an intense process, but we're always looking for new social entrepreneurs to include in the Ashoka network. And no doubt there will be Slovenians out there.
Yeah, we would love to. Peggy, would you, how do we, join the programs that you're supporting?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm having these questions, what Ashoka is doing, how can I apply, what World Chicago is doing. The same will be for you, Uroš, as well. So,
well, we work closely with CEED Slovenia, so keep an eye on their website, but also with the U.S. Embassy in Slovenia, and it's a good way to stay in touch. But our website, of course, is. I can put that in the chat. But I also thought Melania's question about digitalization to impact youth engagement. We were very nervous about doing a virtual exchange because it's certainly not, you're not sitting across the table, absolutely, actually sharing bread. But we found that the young people, the high school teens, slid into it smoothly because they are native to technology. And I think it's going to be a big part of our world. I think this pandemic is we're going to look back in 5 years. I think I'm thinking about this because last week was the 1-year anniversary, but I think we're going to be having a lot of conferences, a lot of meetings that look like this. And so it's going to be crucial to, or just integral. It's going to be a part of all conversations for making change in the future. So
it's going to be some part easier, some part, we still love to travel, and meeting people, and touching, and hugging, and all this is such an important in building relationships, actually, right?
Yeah, but maybe there's more of this before you travel. So then when we're there, when we're in Ljubljana, we know who to call for the glass of the cappuccino.
Definitely. Uroš, how do you see, just maybe share a couple of resources, and then we're going to go back to questions because we have some really interesting ones.
Well, a couple of resources. I think that there are 2 questions or 3 questions that I also want to react to. They are fantastic. But about resources, well, programs, and not only European programs, but also national programs are there to support young people. I think it's also important that we think that we can also make changes in these programs if we are again active. Not that someone else is preparing programs for us, but that we contribute what kind of programs there will be to support our whatever we want. So it's again participation. It sounds crazy and it takes long time, believe me, to change some things, but it is worth it. So Erasmus Plus programs, Solidarity Corps programs have enormous amount of funding in the perspective 2021-27. We have 1.8 times more than we had in previous period, so approximately 26 billion euros for Erasmus Plus program for these 7 years for the whole European Union. So it's a lot of financing. I also need to mention that it's not only about funding. Resources are also in a way that you have the opportunity, like it was said, to connect with someone, to network, to go, to have a visit of your colleagues that you would like to work with. So there are opportunities, and sometimes you just need to go and search and demand the information. That's why national agencies or other structures are there to support young people to get the information. About digitalization, that was a question also. I think that young people here are quite in advance in what is happening, basically. Majority of young people, nevertheless, younger than me, they were born with almost smartphones. They have these skills. If you look at your parents, if you look at your grandparents, they are lost. The changes that are happening now are so quick that, for example, my nephew is much better in phone than I am, and he's 9 years old. Yeah, and this digitalization will also, of course, impact the participation and the involvement and restructuring of the whole systems, as it was already mentioned. Yeah, and the third thing about educational systems, definitely, yeah, at least in Slovenia, we have not enough of this kind of topics. I think you definitely know, Alja, you tried to influence this also, and hope you will still in the future. We don't have this kind of, I don't know, school programs, lectures brought to the already in the kindergartens. Yeah, like I was saying before, entrepreneurial skills, that you know how to go, how to manage. Did they learn us how to go and shop? If you have 10 euros, how you will spend these 10 euros? Nobody told me, you know, I spent it 9 euros for chocolate and then something was left. Yeah, I
think financial literacy is
called, for example, more
such
this
an
kind
important
of
topic.
Yes, topics that would actually support, and this I think needs to come to the regular curriculum of the school systems. Yeah, it is developing, but not enough. Yeah, not quickly enough. So I would support that voices are voiced even more in this direction, that we would impact the systems, because this would benefit the whole society with it. Yeah.
But there are programs, right? I mean, I know there are programs also on a primary school level, you know, connecting, because I know some teachers, you know, who are my friends, you know, and they've been part of this Erasmus Plus different projects while connecting. I mean, I know there are initiatives, there are programs, you know, but we need to kind of we need to do a systematic change, as Gretchen mentions, you know, like it needs to be part of the whole, because Slovenia has a public school system mostly.
Yes.
And we need to have the whole change, right?
Also linking to the topics that were mentioned, yeah, the three horizontal priorities for the future are social inclusion, digital, and green. Yes. So these 3 points will need to be addressed also through the projects that we will fund and so on. So this is the clear message that these are crucial topics for the future if we want to develop. Yeah. I agree that we need more change makers in all of these fields. But I think that young people took the initiatives quite often. At least, for example, if we saw it with climate changes. Yeah, if they were listened enough. Let's see.
Because we always, I mean, talking about now Slovenia or maybe European perspective, you know, I know from my experience, you know, we were all been looking up to US, you know, because like children have been, you know, almost born with social skills, communication skills, presentation skills, you know, and these are all the topics, you know, that we, at least me, you know, or my generation have never been taught in, you know, I needed to gain all this know-how and skills actually after my university years, you know, which is strange. You know, I mean, there's an opportunities for this kind of transatlantic also connections to give to primary school. I mean, to the youngest ones, let's say, right? Not the kindergarten, but primary and secondary schools. I know there's initiatives, but still more connections. I know young people are eager to. Would you? How do you see that from the US perspective? You know, do you see that these were the key skills that youth was taught, you know, within the school system, or do you see there are some things that US young people, let's say, are lacking of? You know, if we're talking about only Slovenia and what's lacking in Europe, what's the perspective in US?
Peggy, I'll jump in quickly. And I was about to start typing into the chat all different resources, but I think it'd be easier to pay attention to the conversation and follow up with Anna Maria later.
Yeah, we can do that later.
So for what it's worth, so I ran an organization called Youth Venture, which is part of Ashoka that supported young people, teenagers, but even younger, as young as 7-year-olds, in starting and launching their own ventures and that create positive change in their school or in their community. And I will say, when I started, Youth Venture was founded in 1996. I believe it was. And I started in the early 2000s. And I will say then that schools, American schools, Brazilian schools, Indian schools, Thai school, everywhere where we were launching Youth Venture, nobody liked this idea of kids starting and running their own things and trying to change things. So it was not well received back then. And so we realized we had to change the system. And part of that was looking at where, what do parents and what do teachers and school principals really care? They want their kids to get a job, hopefully get a university education, ideally, get a job and be positive contributor to societies. And we started to see the linkages to a successful, post-secondary education, job skills, like I mentioned before, and then of course, engaging positively in the community. So we looked at it from that angle, and actually now there's a whole network of Ashoka universities. So universities that affiliate with Ashoka and are certified as changemaker universities. And then we have all these employers, and I've run many job initiatives with different employers where we've shown that skill set of being a change maker is so essential in the workforce. So that was really how we started to flip the system to see that actually there is value, that we should not stop kids from having their own ideas and taking initiative and changing things, that is a really necessary skill set. And there are wonderful programs out there, including at a young age, the kindergarten age. What's I would say is really essential at that age, that's the foundation for all of this change-making stuff, is learning empathy skills. And there are beautiful programs that have been rolled out at schools all over the world that teach these empathy skills to children that have come from different social entrepreneurs from all over the world.
Amazing.
I can give some examples of those later.
Yeah, please do. Matic, okay, we talked about the primary and the teenagers, what about the young people, let's say 20, I know Zavod Ypsilon Institute, sorry, usually connect people who are 20 and above, what do you need, I mean, what does your community need, in this area, to create more change makers and everything?
Yeah, well, to maybe link what Uroš and Gretchen have already said about formal education and things that young people already know. We're like they said, we're born with digital skills, literally, and also there are many resources online. So this is not really the question anymore. But the formal education can also take its part. Like from day one of my university studies, my professors have let me know that the diploma is not enough and that I have to be proactive. And this is something that I know is a part of a system at university, at Faculty of Economics in Ljubljana. I don't know how it is the situation at other universities and faculties, but that can be like implemented right away, just to encourage young people to be more proactive. Regarding the Zavod Ypsilon Institute as an NGO, we've proven many times in the past that we can do great projects that bring results, that help proactive and those who are less proactive and the privileged students, young people. But what we usually or often lack is we can scale our project. We sometimes lack resources. Could it be the work capacity? Could it be the finance? But I don't want to say that there's no government or European funding. Just that those things have to be taken into aspect also when it comes to social entrepreneurs. When they start developing something, just like all entrepreneurs, there is a certain period that they need that they can be sustainable on their own. So there can be some support shown to those social entrepreneurs or to change makers, or in any shape or form, just for corporations, for governments to support them in whatever they need.
So kind of, you're talking about access to capital, but there's also not just access to capital with VC and seed funds and angel and so on. I mean, I think I would go to Uroš and move it, and find resources there, right, Uroš? Because you are actually all the time supporting the active change makers in our society in Europe, right?
Well, we try.
Yeah, of course, you try. Okay, so we now see the poll as well. So we have a great community of active change makers today with us. So that's great. I hope you were satisfied with our conversation, because we now have to move to the end. And I would love, if everyone shares final remarks here. What would be one takeaway message, for our audience, so they, take it. It's not a water cooler message, and they're not going to take it home because they're probably listening from home. But what would be your final remark? Peggy, we can start with you, please.
Oh, I would say to be sure you encourage people to let them know they can make change. I think that's the biggest obstacle, is not knowing that they have the agency to do that, and to mentor them, and to help young people through the process, help them see what they need, what they can put into place, because making them aware is the first step. So, but thank you for helping to improve our world with change makers.
Thank you, Peggy. Gretchen?
One, I guess, last thought I would have is that parenting can be an important tool. So I'd have parents out there, or would-be parents, we tend to do for our kids, in particular American parents, by the way, this has become a real challenge for American parents. I'd say less so in Slovenia, but we tend to just take over, take control, and do. And we have to learn to step back and allow our kids to fail well, starting at a very young age. And that's really going to help them develop the resilience that they need to get out there and be change makers.
Wow, amazing. Matic?
Yeah, to young people, just to be open-minded and to believe in changes they're making, and for the rest, believe in change makers.
Thank you. And Uroš? What would you?
I don't know, if I'm honest. I think that what I learned, there are no recipes, that you just need to try. And that would be my message to me, to everyone, to young people especially. If you have an idea, try it. Go for it. Get someone to help you, get someone to support you, do it with your friends. Just try it. Even if you fail, go ahead. Yeah. Be bold.
I agree. Openness. Thank you, everyone. It was a really nice conversation. Ana Maria, back to you.
Thank you, Alja. Great to see you. Thank you.
Great to see you all. Ana Maria is going to have a final remarks for this session.
Yes, thank you so much, Alja. This has been a really wonderful webinar, really 1 hour passed so quickly. Yeah. So thank you for joining us and sharing your experiences and ideas. Thank you, Peggy. Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, Uroš. And thank you, Matic. And of course, thank you, Alja, for leading this panel so well. And if I can just add to this, yes, well, be bold and start now, and everybody can be a change maker. You can start with really small steps. And for all of you who have been with us here today, you can see that both Peggy and Gretchen, they have listed some links to both Ashoka and World Chicago and other programs that you can check how you can contribute your skills and resources to be active change maker. But again, of course, you can start in your local surroundings with really small steps, and every single step is important. So we are looking forward to your feedback on how you are already being connective citizens. As we've seen the polls, that the results are really great. So yeah, this is it. Thank you so much again. It's really been exciting. And Gretchen, of course, and Peggy, Uroš, and Matic, I would be delighted to make some follow-up on all the programs and opportunities, and I would be delighted to share them also with our participants. So everybody has my email, and please just sign me drop me an email and I will make the necessary connections. But anyhow, thank you again for joining us here, for listening to this panel. And of course, I am inviting you all to join us on the last 10th webinar that is going to be devoted to transatlantic cooperations. So we're going to have guests from US Embassy here in Ljubljana and guests from Slovenian Embassy in Washington. And of course, we're going to be here same time, same date. And I hope that you will join us. So this was it for today. Thank you again for making this a nice evening. And of course, as we always conclude, goodbye, America, and good night, Slovenia. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you and have a great evening and day. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.